The USGA cleared Wyndham Clark twice in 4 days at Shinnecock Hills, and he still walked out holding the trophy. That should be the end of the story. It is not. On the 17th hole, he moved grass before taking his drop. Out in the fescue, a sitting tour caddy watched his practice swing, pulled out his phone, and posted a new video for the whole golf world to see. 7 words. I think Wyndham Clark cheated here. Not a fan account. A man who works inside the ropes. Now the USGA is in trouble because this is not new. Bay Hill 2024. Ball moved on camera. Cleared. Pinehurst 2024. Divot stomped while his ball was still rolling. No call. Bay Hill 2025. Illegal drop controversy. Cleared again. 4 incidents. 0 penalties. And Paige Spiranak, who has a take on everything in golf, posted, I'm staying out of this one, and went completely silent. When that is the loudest defense on the table, something is seriously off. The evidence from 2 different holes is sitting right there, and this time, they can't ignore it. Subscribe now. You are going to want to be in the comments for this one. Now let's walk through exactly what happened. Wyndham Clark did not just win the 2026 U.S. Open. He dominated it from the first day in a way that almost nobody does at Shinnecock Hills. Thursday's opening round set the tone immediately. He shot a 6-under 64 on one of the most punishing golf courses in the world. A course so difficult that the last time it hosted a U.S. Open, Brooks Koepka's winning score was 1 over par. Clark's 64 was not a product of soft conditions or lucky bounces. It was ball striking combined with a short game that looked completely unbothered by the pressure of leading a major from day one. His 54-hole total of 7 under was the lowest Shinnecock Hills had ever seen heading into a final round. He carried a 6-shot lead into Sunday. By any rational measure, the tournament was over before the last group teed off. To understand why that margin still wasn't enough to protect him from what came next, you have to understand who Wyndham Clark actually is as a competitor. He is not the most technically refined player on the PGA Tour. He is not the most consistent. What he is, and what he has been since 2023, is a player who finds something extra when the conditions turn hostile. His first U.S. Open win at Los Angeles Country Club in 2023 came when he was largely unknown outside of hardcore golf circles. He stood on the 72nd hole with Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler breathing down his neck and made the putt. Most players in that position fold. Clark did not fold. He has never folded when the noise gets loudest. That is his core identity. Not elegance, not power off the tee, not the analytics-driven game that Bryson DeChambeau runs. Clark runs on siege mentality. The worse the environment, the more locked in he gets. The year between his 2 U.S. Open titles tested that identity in ways that had nothing to do with golf. At Oakmont in 2025, after missing the cut, Clark damaged a locker room that was over a century old. A prominent USGA official heard about it and said privately he would ban Clark from the following year's Open. The club did ban him from the property. Clark spent months working through a public apology and private restitution that took longer to land right than it should have. He arrived at Shinnecock Hills in 2026, carrying all of that history with him. The 2023 title, the Oakmont incident, the redemption arc, he was still building in real time. Standing across from that narrative at Shinnecock was Scottie Scheffler, the world's #1 ranked player, a 4-time major champion, and a man the entire golf world was quietly pulling for in a way that went beyond normal fan loyalty. Sunday was Scheffler's 30th birthday. He needed a U.S. Open title to complete the career Grand Slam. The crowd at Shinnecock Hills was not subtle about which side they had chosen. When Clark and Scheffler walked to the first tee together for the final round, the gallery sang "Happy Birthday" to Scheffler loud enough for the broadcast to capture every word. Clark got a few polite acknowledgments. That was it. What followed was one of the more hostile atmospheres any major champion has endured in recent memory. Fans were ejected by police during the final round for heckling Clark on the tee. One was removed for shouting, "Don't choke Wyndham," before a tee shot. Another yelled, "Get in the bunker," after Clark made contact on a putt. NBC confirmed multiple ejections on the broadcast. When Clark's shots found greens, the crowd gave polite applause. When Scheffler made birdie on the 10th hole, the roar shook the grandstands. When Clark matched that birdie on the same hole, the silence was loud enough to feel deliberate. Brandel Chambly, watching from the broadcast desk, said afterward it was the worst treatment of a player he had ever witnessed at a major championship. Clark survived it all. He scrambled from positions that should have cost him the lead repeatedly. He made par putts of 15 and 10 feet on the 4th and 6th holes to stay ahead when his game was clearly not at the level it had been earlier in the week. He hit a birdie on the 16th that effectively closed the door on Sam Burns, who had charged from 7 shots back and briefly pulled within 1. When the final putt dropped, a 9-inch tap-in after a 52-foot lag that was pure nerve control, Clark raised his arms and yelled into a crowd that was still mostly cheering for the man he had just beaten. He turned to the gallery and said 4 words that told you everything about how that week felt from the inside. New York didn't love me. Then he paused and added, I love you guys. He was smiling when he said it. He meant both sentences. The celebration lasted less than 24 hours. On June 22nd, the morning after Clark lifted the trophy, a post appeared on X from Brent Henley. If you follow golf closely, that name means something specific. Henley is not a media personality. He is not a fan account or a YouTube analyst. He is a working PGA Tour caddy, a man who spends his professional life reading lies, evaluating angles, and understanding the rulebook at a level most viewers never will. He posted a clip of Clark taking a practice swing in thick Shinnecock fescue during the championship and wrote, I think Wyndham Clark cheats here. No qualification. No, it looks like, or I'm not sure, but. A direct statement from someone who knows exactly what he is looking at. The post spread fast. Within hours, it had been picked up by every major golf media account. But before Henley's clip had even finished circulating, a second piece of footage was already running alongside it, shared by NUCLR Golf during the 3rd round on June 21st. This one showed Clark on the par 3 17th hole, where his tee shot had found an area directly in front of a camera stand. Under USGA rules, a camera stand blocking your backswing qualifies as an immovable obstruction, which entitles a player to free relief. Clark was within the rulebook. A USGA official was present and monitored the entire drop process. What the footage also showed was Clark moving grass in the area before placing the ball, and the drop appearing to come from below knee height rather than from knee height as the rule requires. Fans on X were not subtle. One posted, isn't the drop supposed to be from the knee? He holds the ball at his knee, then lowers to his shin before release. Another asked whether the USGA had actually watched what they were approving. The official cleared it. Clark saved par with an up and down and extended his lead. Now you have 2 separate incidents, 2 different holes, inside the same championship, both documented on video, both cleared by officials, and both spreading simultaneously across every golf platform online. The key detail that lifted Henley's post above normal fan outrage is the source. When a random viewer says a player cheated, it gets 50 retweets and disappears. When a man who walks the fairways for a living posts it under his own name, it becomes a story that the sport has to respond to. Paige Spiranak, who has built a brand on being the loudest voice in golf discourse and who typically has a take ready within minutes of any controversy, posted one sentence and walked away, I'm staying out of this one LOL. That sentence did more damage to Clark's optics than most direct criticisms could have. When the person who will talk about anything decides this is the one topic she will not touch, the audience reads that as its own kind of verdict. The USGA has not issued any additional statement beyond the on-course clearance. Both incidents are officially closed, but the problem with officially closed is that it only addresses the individual moment, and what Henley's post did, intentionally or not, was force people to look at the pattern rather than the incident. Bay Hill in March 2024. Clark was preparing for his second shot on the 18th hole when an NBC camera zoomed in close and showed him placing an iron in the thick rough behind his ball. Both the ball and the grass moved. Rules officials reviewed it alongside playing partner Scotty Scheffler and concluded there was no violation. Chambly went on record disagreeing. "I would respectfully disagree with Wyndham Clark. The ball clearly moved. He clearly didn't ground the club lightly. I don't need video to see this. I saw it live, and I knew the ball moved." The tour moved on. Then came Pinehurst in June 2024, the 10th hole, third round of the U.S. Open. Clark hit a chip, the ball rolled back toward him, and footage showed him stepping on the divot as the ball was still in motion. Fans immediately flagged Rule 11.3, which prohibits players from taking actions that could affect where a ball in motion comes to rest, regardless of outcome. The USGA reviewed it and found no violation. Then Bay Hill again in March 2025, where a free drop in the fairway triggered fresh accusations about whether his ball was embedded in its own pitch mark or someone else's. Tour officials reviewed ShotLink and television footage and cleared him. Clark addressed that one directly. "I wasn't trying to cheat by any means." 4 incidents across 2 years, 4 separate official reviews, 4 clearances, and a quote sitting on the record from March 2025 that reframes all of it. "I've been doing what I did for years, and nobody ever called me out on it, so I don't know if I'm necessarily going to change it." That sentence was meant as a defense, heard in sequence after 4 incidents and a caddy's post-championship accusation. It lands differently. It sounds less like innocence and more like a player who has decided that the gap between what the rulebook permits and what the spirit of the game expects is his to exploit for as long as officials keep letting him. That may not be cheating by the letter of the rules, but Chambly identified the real issue clearly when he wrote about the 2024 Bay Hill incident. "When you push the rulebook to favor you at the expense of the rest of the field, that's something else. Then you are violating everything the game actually stands for." Wyndham Clark is a 2-time U.S. Open champion. He survived a hostile crowd, a Greg Norman-level final round collapse threat, and a world #1 chasing history on his birthday. The scrambling, the nerve, the siege mentality, all of it was real, and all of it was earned. None of that is the question. The question is whether the USGA, which positions itself as the guardian of the rules and the spirit of the game, has the appetite to draw a line between what the rulebook technically permits and what the footage keeps showing. 2 different holes at Shinnecock Hills, a tour caddy who said it out loud under his own name, evidence that 4 separate officials have reviewed and cleared, and that the golf world keeps returning to anyway. The USGA has answered the rule. It has not answered the pattern. Until it does, every tournament Clark enters, every drop he takes, every practice swing in thick rough will get the same treatment Brent Henley gave it on the morning of June 22nd, a camera, a post, and 7 words the sport cannot stop sharing. If you think the rulebook is the problem here, or if you think Clark is, drop it in the comments right now, because that debate is exactly what this channel exists for. Subscribe if you are not on here yet, because this story is not finished. Clark has a Titleist deal, a major pedigree, and the kind of reputation that follows a player into every press tent for the rest of his career. The next time he picks up a club near a camera, the whole golf world will be watching the footage